Hi everyone, this is Lisa Marie from Artistry by Lisa Marie, and today I am coloring my Christmas dove. First off, I wanted to have a little fun with the background, so right off the bat, I am jumping in with my PanPastels, which are one of my favorite mediums to use for a background, and I wanted something a little reminiscent of clouds. I figured with the bird as the main central focus point, it just made sense to have some clouds. So I have a little bit of yellow, and now what I'm doing is I'm taking two different colors of blue, two different tones of blue, a light and a dark, and I'm shaping my clouds. I'm just applying the color in quick little dabs and creating the shapes of clouds with the light and dark blue. I'm also letting the light or the white of the paper kind of show through to help create those cloud shapes. Just slowly layering some little bits of blues together. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too drastic. It's not a hyper realistic cloud look that I'm going for, just something kind of reminiscent of clouds. I'm going to take my rubber eraser here and I'm going to pull up some of the colors also. One nice thing about PanPastel, it's erasable. So I'm pulling up some of the colors to help mold the cloud shapes just a little bit more and also pull some of the white of the paper, add a little more darker dramatic blue, a little bit further in that lower corner away from the yellow light. Of course, a little bit of that yellow reminiscent of sunlight, which I don't get to see too much in upstate New York. So I was really excited to put some yellow on paper and think about sunshine for just a moment. Next, add a little bit of the yellow from that sunshine look onto some of the lower parts of the clouds, just to have just a little bit more warmth in the clouds. And then I'm pulling it up with my rubber eraser again. So a little bit of warmth, a little bit of a sky texture, just a nice bit of movement as a backdrop to this whole design. And then, of course, I've got to move my pen pastels out of the way because that's how I am. Everything has to be clean. Speaking of clean, next I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going over the whole design and just making sure that it's cleaned up a bit because I don't want the pen pastels to interfere with any of the colors that I'm about to put down for the rest of my coloring project today. Of course, I use a soft bristled, very delicate paintbrush to sweep away all of those little eraser marks that you get, all those little remnants of it. And next, I wanted to do a fun underpainting, and I thought the Ohuhu markers would just be fantastic for this. Nice little underlayer of color that they can go down, and I can blend them just a little bit. So first, I'm looking at my pine needles and just doing a dark and light greens. They'll blend together a little bit, nothing too much because again, pine needles are very, very thin. With the wider leaves, I'm going to do three different colors. I'm going to go with a dark, a medium, and a light color. Right now I'm just putting down the darker green. And you can see I'm putting it over the darker shadows that have already been drawn in with the grayscale drawing I did the other day. Next is the medium tone, which is going right over those dark greens. And it's gonna blend, which is fantastic. I'm blending the colors right there on the paper, and it is so fun. Next is that lighter yellow. So I have two different types of greens already happening here. I have the greens in the pine needles, which are just green on green, and now I've got green in these flat leaves, which is green mixed with some lighter yellows. Those little pods, they're kind of small, but I really wanted to have a little fun with them. So a little bit of green, a little bit of cool gray. That's all you really need sometimes with something that's smaller. Just give it a little bit of color. The pine cone, I'm going to be, again, using a dark, medium, and light colors just for my underpainting here to build up that sense of depth, give it a little bit of a feel of volume. But I will be going over all of this with my Prismacolor pencils in just a little bit. First, I just want to get all my color scheme down with the markers. Loved coloring in these roses. So fun to draw them and get all those petals. I loved the movement of the petals. It was just such a joy to draw those flowers. So again, dark, medium, light, but now I'm going with little different color, the reds. And you can see I'm just trying to get the shadows of the petals. I'm not going all the way to the light edges of those petals. I want them to differentiate with the highlights. You can tell with my hands I'm moving and trying to figure out the colors that I want to do next. Sometimes I plan ahead, sometimes it's all whimsical. For the ribbons, I really wanted to have a little more fun with purple. I had a little bit of a reminiscent of purple in the roses. I wanted to go more purple with the ribbon. So again, dark, medium, light. The ribbons are thin, so I'm trying to be careful to not let the darker purple dominate them quite yet. Here's my middle tone purple, and I'm using it to sculpt out a little bit more where the shadows are. Because it is grayscale, I do try to be consistent in my lighting or the light source. Where's the light coming from? Where the darker shadow is going to be? And so I try to do that and keep it in mind when I'm coloring it in as well. This is the lighter color. I'm going to go over all of this again with color pencil and smooth out all of this, but for now I really want to have a nice rich underpainting. The ribbon going off to the side, I wanted to play with purple a little bit more, so I'm using very, very similar purple colors. However, they're going to be a little bit different. I wanted to have a little bit of fun and make the purple ribbon on the side just slightly different. So visually, it'll be kind of fun. It'll be a little interesting. Still sticking with my dark medium light, and I couldn't resist. I had the ribbon wrapping around that ring, so it'll have a little more fun with the shading and the highlights as I'm coloring it in. Next, I'm looking at that bird, and yes, it's a white bird, it's a light dove. However, no such thing as white. So what I'm gonna do is, apparently I'm gonna color in that ring next, but I was definitely looking at that bird, not gonna lie. Uh, super easy with a thin ring, just go with a dark and a super light to get that sense of shadow. Oh, it looks like I forgot to color in a leaf there, I fixed it. So there's no such thing as white in nature. Everything has a little bit of color. Think of snow. It's not just white. There's always some color, some texture to it. So that's what I'm going to do here with the dove. I'm taking a light yellow just to give it a hint of color. And it's going to accentuate some of the shadows. And what I'm doing is, especially in those beautiful wings, I love those wings, just trying to emphasize the movement of the feathers, the texture in the wings, and then I'm taking a cool gray, not another real intense color here, just a cool gray, and I'm going over and I'm blending and softening that yellow that I just put down. And then I'll take my colorless blender to soften it even more. I just wanted a touch of color as an underpainting for the dove. All right, so now I have a background. I have my underpainting with the markers, which were super fun to blend and lay down as an underpainting for this design. Next, I'm pulling out my pencils for the top layer. And what I do is I like to always try to have a dark, medium, and light, and they don't have to be the same colors or all shades of green. For example, this dark was a dark brown, this medium is green, and then the light is a light yellow. But just having a dark, medium, and light really help add the sense of volume and really help make the drawing look a little more three-dimensional. Because these are pine needles, I took my white paint marker and I love to do little bits of highlight. Pine needles, if you've ever seen them, they're actually a little bit shiny. So I wanted to get a little bit of that effect with the paint marker. Next, pulling out my colors that I'm going to be using on the flat leaves. And I loved using this blue over the green. This blue pencil was super fun. I love the way that it played with the underpainting. Just a real joy to have that color playing with the whole thing. I love mixing colors on paper. And don't worry about trying to figure out what the colors are. I'll put all the names of the colors in the video description for you, so you don't have to wonder what colors I'm using. I'll write it all down for you. So again, dark, medium, light. And I'm blending my colored pencils right over the underpainting of the markers. and a nice light cream. Sometimes I go with white, but quite frequently I like to use this light cream to add a touch of highlight, especially in a warmer subject. Those little pods, not doing too much with them because again, they're so small. So just a little bit of color and a couple specks of the white paint from that paint marker. Gives it a nice different texture, something a little fun. I really enjoyed the different textures in this. Now with the roses, I again go dark, medium, and light. And you can see I pull them right off to the side there so you can see the ones that I'm about to use. The lighter color here, I am pushing to the edges of those rose petals. So this is where I fill in the rest of the rose petals with my lighter colored pencil. Playing with shadow, want to make sure that I make each little section definitely stand out and pop, push my shadows darker and my highlights lighter. That's always the way to just focus and know where your shadows should be and how you should build them up. Same thing with the ribbon, had my dark purple, and now I'm just blending all the other colors right over those purples. This is a lilac purple for my medium tone, and it is just looking spectacular over that vivid pink underpainting. That same light peach that I used in the roses, I'm now using in the ribbon. And I like having a repetition of color in different elements. It creates a sense of consistency visually. Here you can see I actually do take the white pencil to create those nice highlights. But I do like to have sometimes the same colors repeating through a design, even if I'm mixing them up and blending them with different colors. I love the visual consistency of having sometimes the same colors repeat throughout a design. And I especially loved this palette, the golds, the purples, the nice greens and blues as sort of a backdrop, but those golds and the purples just are fantastic complementary colors. Next, again with the bird, you can see I'm pushing the shadows. Even though it's a light colored bird, I really want to maintain that texture. I want the wings to stand out. So I do have a dark and a medium and a light that I am working with here. I'm just being very, very careful, very minimal in my application of the colors themselves. Blending right over, going back to my nice warm cream, the same light cream that I used in the leaves and other parts of the design I used on the bird again. It creates a nice sense of consistency. White pencil, perfect for this. This is one of the situations where you can definitely go to town with a white colored pencil. Pop of color in the beak and the feet with my oranges. Do a little bit in the eyes as well. I wanted the eyes to be a little bit warmer. And then I take that painter marker. You don't have to do this, but I like to add a bit of texture when I am coloring birds by adding the painter marker, especially if it's a lighter bird, those white feathers. I want each feather to stand out. And little specks, you don't have to do big sweeping strokes of lines here, just little dots, little bits of highlight can really go a long way in adding a sense of volume to a grayscale drawing. Darken the eyes just a bit, and there you go. Thank you for visiting me in the studio today. I'll see you next time. Bye.